first, a confession. We didn't do all of our homework. We only did half of it.
We did only do half, but we did the good half. We only listened to the band's visit. We decided to move Frozen to next week.
Because we're lazy.
We're efficient. The Band's Visit is based on a movie called The Band's Visit.
Very, very clever a title.
So basic synopsis, it's about a band.
And they visit.
Yes. But they're from Egypt, and they're going to play at a cultural center in Israel. But at the train station, they say the name of the city wrong and end up in a tiny town where the bus only goes once a day. And so in this town of very few people, and they can't make it to the real town until the next day. So it's all about their interaction with the people in the town and the relationships they form in those 24 hours.
And then the bus comes the next day and they go to the right city and then it's over.
Yes.
And as far as I'm aware, the movie is not a musical, correct?
The movie is not a musical.
Okay.
I listened to the overture several months ago when the album was released, and I enjoyed it. It was fine, but I didn't feel any compulsion to listen to the rest. It wasn't as interesting as I'd hoped a new musical would be, and so I didn't listen to the rest of it until recently. But when I did start listening to it, I did enjoy it. It was very touching, I thought.
So maybe I should not approach these things this way, but I think all three of these musicals we've done so far, I've listened to the music first before reading the synopsis, so I get really confused in a lot of the places.
This time I read the synopsis months ago when I listened to the overture, and so I only remembered a little bit when I listened to it again, and then I reread the synopsis.
I guess my overall feeling towards this musical is just not super impressed. Like, it's a fine musical, the music is fine, and the plot is also okay. Man, this is, I think, going to be a much more scathing review than you may have been expecting. I would not have picked it for a Best Musical nominee.
Wow, that is surprising. I think it deserves Best Musical, so we'll get to that in later on.
I guess, in the cast recording, sometimes they don't include all of the songs if there's like a little, segment that's something. But the cast recording album is 42 minutes in length, 11 of which minutes are instrumental. So there's 31 minutes of singing in the cast recording album, compared to the previous two musicals, SpongeBob and Mean Girls, which are both roughly an hour. So it's about twice as much singing. And because of that, the cast recording just felt really short, and it didn't really feel like there was a whole lot going on. I really liked Omar Sharif.
Okay, I enjoyed that one as well.
And Omar Sharif is basically... I'm going to butcher all these names, so I'm not even going to try. The cafe owner is singing about how she and her mother would listen to Egyptian radio and watch movies starring Omar Sharif, who is Egyptian, yes?
Yes.
And so obviously the Egyptian band member knows this person, and so they bond.
I actually loved all of them, but my favorite one, I think, was Answer Me. It's the last song in the musical where they're singing. I love it because it's a really good ending. The very first song is called Waiting, and the people in the town are all waiting. And they talk about how there are two kinds of waiting. So one is waiting for something you're expecting to happen. But the kind of waiting that they're all feeling is just waiting for anything to happen, because nothing happens in their town, and so they're just waiting, not knowing if anything ever will. There's one character in the town who is waiting for something specific. He's the telephone guy. That is the name of his character. But he waits by the payphone constantly, waiting for his girlfriend to call. He hasn't heard from her in months, but he waits and waits and waits for her to call. And everyone else is just waiting for anything to happen. But at the end, Answer Me, it's the telephone guy singing. It's about him waiting for her to call, And then at the end, she does. And so that's the answer to his waiting. And the band visiting was the answer to everyone else's waiting. And so it ties up the musical well. I love the feeling and the message of the musical. I think it's really interesting to have just 24 hours and these people meeting they're never going to see each other again, just how they interact. And so it's just a glimpse into these people's lives at this unexpected turn of events. And I think it's really beautiful and very human. So I very much enjoyed this musical. And I don't really have anything least favorite because all of the songs are very simple, but they all fit in the musical perfectly, and I like them all.
So I feel like it's a lot harder to talk with this. Maybe we should get rid of this.
Let's ditch it.
All right.
So we have been trying to use an outline for this one. The last episode we were just talking off the cuff, but now we tried to do it with an outline and it didn't work as well. So we're moving back to off the cuff.
Oh, we never introduced ourselves.
We never introduced ourselves.
So now that you're halfway through this episode of the second episode, I assume that means you are enjoying the podcast so far.
Hopefully we've cut out all of the terrible bits that we've said today.
That's true. Maybe this is the beginning of the episode. Either way, I am Hayden Atchley.
I am Adam Taylor.
And now you've been introduced to us.
Thank you.
Back to the discussion.
One of my favorite moments in the show is the juxtaposition of Poppy Hears the Ocean and Khaled's song about love. Poppy is one of the characters from the town, and he is an awkward fellow. He doesn't know how to talk to women, and he gets very uncomfortable around them, and it's very stressful for him. And whenever they talk, he just hears the ocean. The shh is how he describes it. But Khaled is one of the members of the band who is visiting, and he is super smooth and very comfortable around women and great at talking to them. And his song is like a smooth jazz, and it's a very cool song. But Poppy's song is very agitated, and that one comes right before Khaled's song about love. And so having them right next to each other, I love.
And if I'm not mistaken, Khaled's song about love is him singing to Poppy as kind of like a pep talk, right?
That's right.
Okay. I do really like that song as well.
I really enjoyed the use of the word falafel in Poppy Hears the Ocean.
That I thought was kind of a funny moment as well. I did enjoy that song. Yeah, I enjoyed that song. That was a good song. I enjoyed the songs. I can't quite figure this out because when I think about it, I enjoyed most of the songs, but I don't really like the musical as a whole.
That makes sense because I enjoy talking to you, but I don't enjoy you as a whole.
Thank you. I can't decide if I like it or not, but there is a lot of different kind of musical style in this piece. Like Khaled's song about love is a very like cool jazz song, and a lot of it, it's set obviously in the Middle East, and so there's a lot of sort of Middle Eastern sounding music. Although oddly enough, it's mostly just the instrumental stuff that is that way, and a lot of the singing is much more Western. Especially there's a choir or a choral section in Waiting where it's a very, very, very like westernized harmony. It sounds like a chorale is what it sounds like.
Speaking of Waiting, there is one section of it that sounds almost exactly like the Technology song from the end of Napoleon Dynamite, and it makes me laugh.
I didn't notice that part. Although I guess I don't remember the last time I watched Napoleon Dynamite. It was a long, long time ago. I don't think I liked it very much to begin with, but
that's okay. I will completely forgive you for that.
Okay. I'm allowed to dislike that one. I'm not allowed to dislike The Band's Visit.
You are allowed. You're just wrong.
Okay. That's fair. So the musical is nominated for Best Musical, Best Original Score, and is it nominated for anything else? I'm not sure.
It has several nominations. Both of the leads are nominated for Best Actor and Best Actress in a musical. And there is the character Khaled. His actor he is nominated for Best Supporting Actor in a Musical.
The two leads being Tafik and Dina?
Dina, yes, that's right. So Tony Shalhoub, who plays Tafik, the leader of the band, he hardly sings at all. He has one song and then reprises that song in a couple other songs, but he sings very, very little in the show.
That's true.
Which is interesting because when you think about Best Actor in a Musical, you think, oh, Best Singer. But that is not the case. He's just the best actor in the musical, even though most of what he does is just acting rather than singing. So yeah, Best Musical, Best Actor in a Musical, Best Actress in a Musical, Best Featured Actor in a Musical, Best Direction of a Musical, Best Book of a Musical, Best Original Score, Best Orchestrations, Best Scenic Design in a Musical, Best Lighting Design in a Musical, and Best Sound Design in a Musical.
Wow. Some of those we are not going to be very able to judge.
We will not, yeah, because none of us have seen the show, which hardly makes us qualified to discuss it.
We like musicals, so we get to say whatever we want.
That's right. They are pretty much up against Mean Girls and SpongeBob in every category.
Did Frozen make the list for many of those
Frozen
nominees?
Was nominated for Best Musical, Best Original Score, Best Book, and Best Leading Actor in a Musical.
Okay, I know we're not talking about Frozen right now, but I don't think Frozen should really be eligible for Best Original Score if more than half of the score is not original. Unless it's the same people who wrote the other songs.
It is.
Okay.
That's right.
Then I'm more okay with it.
One thing I would like to bring up is that this musical very much reminds me of Come From Away, a musical that was in last year's Broadway season. That musical was about when 9/11 happened and they had to land a bunch of planes, and so it was about all the planes that landed in Gander, Newfoundland, and so it's all of these strangers that show up in this small town and how they interact over the course of the musical. So it's a similar plot line and similar in the way that it uses very traditional music from that area, just like this one does. And everything it was up against is kind of just regular musical theater style. That one was a beautiful musical, and I thought it should have won a lot more than it did, but it only won Best Direction in a musical. And so I'm hoping that doesn't happen with this show.
What does Best Direction in a musical mean?
I don't know. I think it means that the director did the best job.
I see. I was thinking direction like I'm going in a direction. And like this musical, like the direction of what does that even mean? But
okay.
Director, direction. Okay, yeah, I get it. In case you haven't noticed, Adam is the much more experienced musical theaterist.
So this is 1000% different than SpongeBob and Mean Girls.
That being said, actually, I think that might be all there is to say about it. I don't know. Can we make any comparisons?
Okay, I think we'll start here. SpongeBob takes place over 24 to 48 hours. They find out the volcano is erupting, and then it doesn't erupt. And that all happens within about a day. Mm-hmm. This musical takes place within a day. They arrive, and then they stay there, and then the bus comes the next day, and they leave. Mean Girls takes place over an entire school year, but they're all the same length. So it's interesting to see how musicals can do that. They can, within just their 2-hour time window, they can show us either a tiny cross-section of one day in a few people's lives or an entire year of an entire school.
Or let's take it. I'm sure there's musicals that are much more spread out, that cover much more time than this. But take Les Mis, for example, covers many, many, many years.
Because that is a small child at the beginning, and then she's not quite dead at the end.
Yeah, it's at least easily 15 years. But to be fair, most of the time passage in Les Mis is just kind of like it just instantly happens. Speaking of Les Mis and comparing this show, obviously very few things are going to do anything but pale in comparison to Les Mis. But my whole thing about this musical, it's about longing, right?
Right.
Like Les Mis, if you boil it down, it also kind of maybe only has one or two central themes.
Right.
Mostly, the way I see it, it's mostly about love. Actually, it's probably mostly about the sewers of Paris.
That's very true.
The book, at least, not the not the musical. But the thing where The Band's Visit falls flat is that it just kind of is longing. Nothing happens. You don't get emotionally invested. You don't
You don't get emotionally invested.
I didn't feel compelled to get emotionally invested.
I did.
I don't know where I was really going with that. The point being, Les Mis is good. The Band's Visit is less good.
I will agree with that, but I will not say that The Band's Visit is not good, because it is, and I enjoy it.
So you said you think it should win Best Musical.
I think it should,
Okay.
because the other musicals, let's go through them. Mean Girls is about white people and their emotional issues. SpongeBob is about...
SpongeBob.
Right. And Frozen is about toddlers driving their parents crazy. But The Band's Visit is about people of color and emotion. So it's probably the most politically correct choice.
No, The Band's Visit is about wanting things that you don't have.
But there are people of color in it as well. So I think it's the right choice. It might not be the choice that they make.
I hope it's not the choice they make. No, irrespective of the demographic of the people represented in the musical.
Is irrespective a word?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's the opposite of respective.
I believe respective is a word. So I will
Respective is definitely a
your
word.
opinion.
Okay. Thank you for respectiving my opinion. I do not think it should win Best Musical.
What do you think should win Best Musical? Of the
Should
ones
I
we've
say-
spoken of so far.
Should I say it right now, or should we wait until the next episode in which we more fully discuss the Tonys that
Let's
are
wait.
upcoming?
We should wait.
I will leave it as a mystery.
And we will see
To
if my
everyone.
opinion changes once I listen to Frozen, the Broadway musical.
Well, I've listened to it a couple. Well, I think you've listened to it already. haven't
I
you?
have.
Okay.
But
I've also listened to it.
I'll listen to it again and see if it changes my opinion.
If that changes your opinion, well, if it changes your opinion to Frozen, I will be disappointed in you.
One thing I would like to say is that The Band's Visit won the Drama League Award for Outstanding Production of a Musical. And for the past 3 years, the winner of the Drama League Award for Outstanding Production of a Musical has also won the Tony Award for Best Musical.
But that means that 4 years ago, that didn't happen.
Because
And who knows what happened before then. So maybe these 50, 60, when did the Tonys start? 40s? These 70 years that the Tonys have been going on, maybe it's just the past 3. I mean, we could look it up.
We could look it up, but
Or
I
we
think
could-
we'll just
Or
we'll
we
just
could just
ponder.
assume that I'm right and that the Band's Visit is not going to win. In all honesty, probably the Band's Visit is going to win, is what I would expect, but it's not the one I would like to win.
But the one he would like to win will be discussed next week when we discuss Frozen the Broadway musical and the Tony Awards in general.